When you want to make a right turn, your car must be A. Near the center of the street. B. Close to the left side of the street. C. Close to the right side of the street. D. Past the center of the intersection when you begin to turn. C. Close to the right side of the street. As you prepare to make a right turn, you should get as far to the right side of the road as possible. Do not cut across lanes of traffic to perform any turn. Your body gets rid of approximately A. 3 alcoholic drinks an hour. B. 1 alcoholic drink an hour. C. 2 alcoholic drinks an hour. D. None of the above. B. 1 alcoholic drink an hour. The average person's body will process about 1 alcoholic drink in 1 hour. However, many factors play a part in determining how impaired a person will become when consuming alcohol, including the amount of alcohol consumed, how fast it is consumed, and a person's body weight, food intake, and general health. What should you do when you are going to enter a roadway from a private road? A. Blow your horn to warn cars you are entering the roadway. B. Stop with part of your car on the roadway to alert other drivers. C. Drive out fast to merge smoothly with the traffic. D. Yield the right of way to pedestrians and roadway traffic. D. Yield the right of way to pedestrians and roadway traffic. When entering a roadway from a driveway or private road, you must yield the right of way to pedestrians and traffic on the roadway. You need to use extra caution when driving near a pedestrian using a white cane because A. He or she is deaf. B. He or she is a police officer. C. He or she is blind. D. He or she has poor balance. C. He or she is blind. When driving near a blind pedestrian who is carrying a white cane or walking with a guide dog, you must slow down, yield the right of way, and then proceed with caution. Be prepared to stop your vehicle in order to prevent injury or danger to the pedestrian.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
You may cross double solid yellow lines. A. To pass a slow-moving truck. B. To turn into a driveway. C. To pass another car. D. Under no conditions. B. To turn into a driveway. Double solid lines indicate that you may not pass or change lanes. You cannot cross the lines unless it is to turn left to enter or exit a highway, to turn into or from a driveway, or to make a U-turn where permitted. This sign means A. Divided highway ends. B. One-way traffic ahead. C. Two-way traffic ahead. D. Keep to the right. D. Keep to the right. This sign indicates that you must keep to the right of the upcoming divider. When making a right turn on a green light, you must A. Maintain your normal driving speed. B. Stop and look for nearby police cars. C. Yield to pedestrians. D. Increase your normal driving speed. C. Yield to pedestrians. Unless a posted sign prohibits it, you may turn right or left at a steady green light. When turning, you must yield to other vehicles and pedestrians within the intersection. When a vehicle with an anti-lock braking system starts to lose traction on a slippery road, drivers should A. Pump the brakes. B. Press and hold the brake pedal. C. Press and hold the gas pedal. D. Lightly tap the brakes. B. Press and hold the brake pedal. If their vehicle loses traction on a slippery road, a driver with an anti-lock braking system (ABS) needs to press down hard on the brake pedal, hold it, and steer out of danger. In an emergency situation, the ABS automatically pumps the brakes at a faster rate than the driver could. Removing steady pressure from the brake pedal or pumping the brakes will disengage the ABS. This sign means A. Fines double in work zone. B. Flagger ahead. C. Bicycle crossing. D. Side road. A. Fines double in work zone. Construction zones pose dangers to both drivers and construction workers. Orange highway construction signs warn drivers to be careful when encountering construction zones. This sign tells drivers that there are added penalties when driving irresponsibly in work zones. From the center lane, which maneuvers can you perform? A. You may make left turns. B. You may make U-turns. C. You may pass slow-moving traffic. D. All of the above. A. You may make left turns. This sign indicates where a lane is reserved for the exclusive use of left-turning vehicles from either direction. Such a lane may not be used for passing or for through traffic. This sign means A. No right turn. B. Keep right. C. No U-turn. D. Left lane must turn left. A. No right turn. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign means that right turns are prohibited. When is it illegal to drive below the speed limit? A. When driving slowly disrupts the normal flow of traffic. B. When in heavy traffic in a construction zone. C. Only when driving in rural areas. D. When driving under adverse weather conditions. A. When driving slowly disrupts the normal flow of traffic. It is illegal to drive so slowly that you disrupt the normal flow of traffic. You may receive a citation for driving too slowly. Fill in the blank. Greatly increase stopping distances and severity of crashes. A. High speeds. B. Slow speeds. C. Night drives. D. Uphill inclines. A. High speeds. High speeds greatly increase stopping distances and severity of crashes. The faster you drive, the greater the impact or striking power of your vehicle, should you be involved in a collision. This sign means A. A left curve is ahead. B. A series of curves is ahead. C. An S curve is ahead. D. The road will be slippery when wet. D. The road will be slippery when wet. This sign warns that especially slippery conditions exist when the road is wet. You may drink alcoholic beverages in a vehicle on a public highway. A. As long as you aren't driving. B. If you are riding in the back seat. C. If you are riding in the back of a pickup truck. D. Under no circumstances. D. Under no circumstances. It is against the law to consume or possess any alcoholic beverage while on a public road or sidewalk. Additionally, storing an open alcoholic beverage container in an area of a motor vehicle normally occupied by the driver or passenger is prohibited on any public road. Certain highway signs contain information about hazardous conditions. Such signs are known as A. Regulatory signs. B. Warning signs. C. Information signs. D. Guide signs. B. Warning signs. Warning signs advise drivers of potentially hazardous conditions. For your own safety, obey warning signs. Disregarding the information provided by a warning sign may result in an accident due to your negligence. This sign means A. No parking. B. Divided highway ahead. C. Left turn signal. D. Yield. A. No parking. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign indicates that parking is not permitted. When approaching a traffic signal displaying a flashing yellow arrow, drivers A. should merge into a lane in the direction of the arrow. B. should come to a complete stop. C. may turn left after yielding to oncoming traffic and pedestrians. D. have the right of way and may expect oncoming traffic to stop for them. C. may turn left after yielding to oncoming traffic and pedestrians. A flashing yellow arrow indicates that left turns are allowed in the direction of the arrow. However, the oncoming traffic has a green light and you must yield to oncoming traffic and pedestrians. Driving without liability insurance. A. is against the law. B. is not illegal but is not recommended. C. will result in no legal repercussions. D. is required. A. is against the law. Drivers are required to have proper liability insurance when operating a motor vehicle. The state minimum requires drivers to have a minimum of $25,000 of coverage for the injury or death of one individual, $50,000 of coverage for the injury or death of two individuals, and $25,000 of coverage for property damage. This insurance is also known as 25/50 liability insurance. What is the meaning of this sign? A. The traffic signal ahead is displaying a red light. B. The traffic signal ahead is broken. C. The traffic signal ahead is displaying a green light. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. D. There is a traffic signal ahead. This sign indicates that there is a traffic signal at the intersection ahead. This road sign means A. Side road. B. Keep to the side indicated by the arrow. C. You may drive in the left lane. D. You have the right of way. B. Keep to the side indicated by the arrow. This is a keep right sign. It indicates that a traffic island, median, or barrier is ahead and that drivers must keep to the right of it. You are stopped in a line of vehicles waiting at a stop sign. If there is no cross traffic after the vehicles ahead have passed through the intersection, you A. may proceed through the intersection without stopping again. B. must stop again at the stop sign or stop line before proceeding. C. may slowly roll past the stop sign. D. may follow the vehicle directly ahead of you without stopping. B. must stop again at the stop sign or stop line before proceeding. You must always bring your vehicle to a complete stop and yield to approaching traffic before proceeding past a stop sign. Don't feel pressured by surrounding traffic to avoid making a complete stop. Which is not a factor in determining the distance that it takes to stop your vehicle. A. Steering ability. B. Braking distance. C. Reaction distance. D. Perception time. A. Steering ability. The distance required to stop your vehicle depends on perception time, reaction distance, and braking distance. This changes with speed and road conditions. Highway markings. A. Are usually not important. B. Are only found in construction zones. C. Provide information for drivers. D. Are usually red and blue in color. C. Provide information for drivers. Highway markings provide information for drivers. Markings help drivers correctly position their vehicles on roadways, inform drivers of safe passing zones, and warn drivers about upcoming conditions. To help relieve fatigue on a long trip, it is a good idea to A. Stop and rest every 2 hours. B. Do arm exercises every hour. C. Drive with one eye open at a time. D. Change feet on the gas pedal. A. Stop and rest every 2 hours. To avoid becoming fatigued while taking a long trip, stop every 2 hours for a short break. If you become drowsy, pull off the road and park in a safe place to take a nap, or find a room to stay for the night. You are driving in the left lane and want to move into the right lane. You should A. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your left shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. B. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over your right shoulder for other vehicles before changing lanes. C. Check your mirrors, signal, and look over both shoulders for other vehicles before changing lanes. D. Check your mirrors, signal, and change lanes. Signaling your intentions before turning, changing lanes, or driving away from a curb. A. Is necessary only if other traffic is present. B. Is a good driving habit and is required by law. C. Is necessary only during the maneuver, not before. D. Is not necessary if the maneuver is done slowly. B. Is a good driving habit and is required by law. When changing lanes or turning, signal your intentions well in advance. The law requires that you signal for at least 100 feet before you move your vehicle to the right or left. Before pulling away from a curb, always signal to inform passing drivers of your intentions. This road sign means A. Your current roadway ends ahead. B. You must bear either right or left. C. A four-way intersection is ahead. D. A road joins from the right. B. You must bear either right or left. This sign indicates that there is a Y intersection ahead. You must bear either to the right or to the left. Drowsy drivers. A. Should drink strong black coffee to stay awake. B. Can drive so poorly that they may appear to be drunk. C. Can stay alert by opening a window and turning up the radio. D. Are usually only older drivers. B. Can drive so poorly that they may appear to be drunk. Drowsiness can make people drive so poorly that they appear to be drunk. Opening a window, turning on the radio, or drinking coffee is not enough to make a drowsy driver alert to roadway hazards. If traffic signals at an intersection are not functioning due to a power outage, A. Park your vehicle as far off the road as possible and wait for power to be restored. B. Use hand signals to indicate your intentions to other drivers. C. Turn on your hazard lights and proceed through the intersection without stopping. D. Treat the intersection as a four-way stop. D. Treat the intersection as a four-way stop. If a traffic light at an intersection is not functioning due to a power outage, yield to other drivers in the same manner as you would when approaching a four-way stop. When it is your turn, proceed through the intersection with caution. A load extending more than, fill in the blank, beyond the rear of a vehicle must be marked by a red flag during the day. A. 1 foot. B. 2 feet. C. 3 feet. D. 4 feet. D. 4 feet. If a load extends more than 4 feet past the rear of a vehicle, it must be marked by a red flag when being transported during the day in clear weather. The flag should be no less than 12 inches square. Red lights are required when transporting the load in times of limited visibility. A work zone. A. May be moving or stationary. B. Is marked with black and white signs. C. Does not require a driver to slow down and pay extra attention. D. All of the above. A. May be moving or stationary. Work zones are often stationary, but they may also be present in the form of moving vehicles striping lines, mowing, or removing snow. Work zones are marked by orange signs with black lettering or symbols. Slow down and pay extra attention when approaching or driving through a work zone. When preparing to turn left, drivers should A. Slow down gradually while checking their rearview mirror. B. Move into the left lane. C. Watch for oncoming vehicles and pedestrians. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. As you approach a left turn, signal your intentions 3 to 5 seconds in advance. Continually check your rearview mirror as you gradually slow down. On a multi-lane road, move into the left lane before reaching the intersection where you plan to turn. Yield to traffic and pedestrians and turn when your path is clear. What does alcohol do to your driving skills and judgment? A. It helps driving skills but harms your judgment. B. It harms both driving skills and judgment. C. It has no effect on either driving skills or judgment. D. It has no effect on judgment but it harms driving skills. B. It harms both driving skills and judgment. Alcohol negatively affects many skills needed for safe driving, including your reaction time and ability to see clearly. It can also harm your judgment of speed and distance, lower your inhibitions, and make you more prone to taking chances. When driving past a vehicle that has just stopped in a parked position on the side of the road, you should A. Assume that the driver will open the car door as you approach. B. Speed up. C. Slam on your brakes. D. Assume that the driver will wait for you to pass before opening the door. A. Assume that the driver will open the car door as you approach. When passing a vehicle that has just parked parallel to the road, you should assume the driver will open the door as you approach. Use extra caution when driving near parked vehicles. From top to bottom, the following is the proper order for traffic lights. A. Red, yellow, green. B. Red, green, yellow. C. Green, red, yellow. D. Green, yellow, red. A. Red, yellow, green. On a traffic signal arranged vertically, red is always on top and green on the bottom. When arranged horizontally, red is always on the left and green on the right. When approaching a railroad crossing, warning sign. A. Be ready to drive faster than the train. B. Be prepared to stop if a train is nearby. C. Look for a way around any lowered gates. D. Assume no trains are nearby and continue driving normally. B. Be prepared to stop if a train is nearby. Railroad crossing warning signs are used to warn drivers of the possibility of a train. Drivers should obey all railroad crossing warning signs and never go around barriers or disregard the warning sign. Downward-facing triangular signs. A. Indicate school zones. B. Tell drivers to yield. C. Indicate construction zones. D. Indicate railroad crossings. This sign means A. Winding road. B. No parking. C. Right lane closed. D. Multiple turns. A. Winding road. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign warns drivers that they are approaching a winding road and that they should adjust their speed accordingly. This sign means A. No parking at any time. B. Two-way traffic. C. Flagger ahead. D. Steep downgrade. A. No parking at any time. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign indicates that parking is not permitted at any time. Allow a larger space cushion than usual when stopping. A. On an incline. B. At an intersection. C. At a stop sign. D. At a toll plaza. A. On an incline. You should allow more space in front of your vehicle than usual when you are stopped on an uphill slope. If the vehicle in front of you rolls backward toward your vehicle when traffic begins to move again, it is less likely that there will be a collision. You are approaching a railroad crossing that has no visible gates or flashing lights, but has a standard crossbuck. You should A. Approach all tracks with extreme caution and cross only when you know that there is no train coming. B. Turn your radio down to hear if there may be an approaching train. C. Only continue once cleared to do so by a flagger, if applicable. D. All of the above. D. All of the above. You must approach all railroad crossings with extreme caution and cross only when you know that no train is coming from either direction. If there is a flagger at a crossing, you must obey all of their instructions. You are driving on a highway divided by two solid yellow lines. You may A. Cross these lines only to make a left turn into or from an alley, private road, or driveway. B. Cross these lines to pass other vehicles, but only if there is no oncoming traffic. C. Cross these lines under no circumstances. D. Cross these lines only to make a U-turn. A. Cross these lines only to make a left turn into or from an alley, private road, or driveway. Double solid yellow lines are used to mark roadways where passing is prohibited from both directions. You may cross these lines only to make a left turn into or from an alley, private road, or driveway. This sign means A. Slippery when wet. B. Tow-away zone. C. Steep downgrade. D. Roadwork ahead. A. Slippery when wet. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers to be cautious when driving under conditions that may cause the roadway to become wet and slippery. This sign means A. Do not block intersection. B. Flagger ahead. C. Pedestrian crossing. D. Low shoulder. A. Do not block intersection. Regulation signs regulate traffic speed and movement, displaying rules which drivers must obey. This regulation sign will be posted near an intersection that drivers should be careful not to block. A diamond-shaped sign. A. Warns of existing or possible hazards. B. Alerts drivers to school zones. C. Alerts drivers to public recreation areas. D. Alerts drivers to upcoming food and gas locations. A. Warns of existing or possible hazards. Diamond-shaped signs warn drivers of existing or potential driving hazards. You will usually see these signs in yellow or orange. This road sign means A. Parking spaces are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. B. A circular intersection is ahead. C. Traffic in the lane must turn in the direction of the arrow. D. Lanes are reserved for buses and vehicles with a driver and one or more passengers. A. Parking spaces are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. This sign marks parking spaces that are reserved for people with disabled parking permits. A single broken white line down the center of a two-lane road indicates A. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are not permitted to pass. B. Lanes are moving in opposite directions and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. C. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are not permitted to pass. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. D. Lanes are moving in the same direction and drivers are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. White lines are used to separate traffic moving in the same direction. Dashed lines indicate that drivers directly next to the line are permitted to pass when it is safe to do so. This sign means A. Yield ahead. B. Railroad crossing. C. Low shoulder. D. Deer crossing. A. Yield ahead. Warning signs prepare drivers for upcoming road conditions and hazards and are usually yellow with black markings. This sign tells drivers that they are approaching a yield sign and should be prepared to come to a complete stop to yield the right of way to other drivers and pedestrians. You may drive around or under a gate that is being lowered or raised at a railroad crossing. A. As long as an approaching train is not too close. B. If your vehicle can do so without damaging the gate. C. If you first look carefully in both directions. D. Under no circumstances. D. Under no circumstances. Flashing red lights, lowered crossing gates, and/or bells at a railroad crossing mean that you must come to a complete stop. You must not go across the tracks until the lights and bells have stopped and the crossing gates are completely up. Do not drive around or under a gate that is moving up or down.